All right, there we go. So, now the recording's all set up, I believe Facebook Live should be working. Let me go ahead and pull up the slides for today. Get that screen share. You'd think I'd be getting faster at the screen share thing, but I'm really not. All right, so today is the final day of the 5-day clients challenge. And today is all about the T and the S. So that is tracking and standards. So when it comes to tracking, I'm talking about a few different things here. And welcome, Ahmed. It's good to have you here. But yeah, when it comes to tracking, there's a few different things here. So I'm talking about tracking multiple things when it comes to clients. Talking about tracking relationships, the messages you've sent for following up. So just keeping track of what you're doing with that, because it can get really overwhelming. The favors that you owe and are owed, although I don't like using those words because you don't want to be a scorekeeper when it comes to doing favors or having favors given to you. At higher levels, it shouldn't be like, here's my brownie points, now you owe me your brownie points down the line. It should sort of just be like, hey, I can help you with that. But we're also going to get into how to not get taken advantage of as well, because that we all know what can happen. Past results that you've gotten, those are great for tracking, like we were talking about yesterday, because the more you can track past results, the more you can use them to help leverage for future results. The problem is not everyone's going to give you results, or they're not going to tell you what's happening. Sometimes you just might not get results, and it might not even be your fault. Because honestly, a lot of times it's hard to control with client work what they're doing on their end. Because it's a lot like, what is it, the iceberg, where you can see like the little bit that maybe you're working on, but then everything else is like way below the surface and it could be a mess. So anything goes with that. Past testimonials are always great to have around. Just really strong social proof to build trust, tell people actually believe in what you're doing, what you're saying, all that sort of stuff. It's always very useful. Your reaching out attempts, so you can see if they're actually working. When I say tracking your attempts at reaching out, I mean like keep at least a mental note in your head. Like, okay, I posted, this content on LinkedIn, and I was really hoping that this specific person would see it. Is the screen black or is my phone screen black? Right now the slides are black, as in it's dark with light text. Oh, okay, there we go. But yeah, it's the reaching out attempts, so you can track them and see if they're actually doing anything. Like if every single day you try to get a message somewhere near Mark Zuckerberg, and when you reach out to him, he's sort of like, who is this guy? I have no idea who you are. I've never seen you in my life. I've never seen your name. It's like, oh, maybe your efforts to position yourself somewhat in front of him didn't work at all. So it helps to be able to track and see what's working, what's not. And also just your goals. Talked about that yesterday. So you can know if you're getting closer to them or if they're getting farther away from you. But today, there's something that I want to focus on a little bit more out of that entire list, and that is the relationship part of it. So all I'm talking about here is just network management. So if you want to take it back to like high school or something, all you need to do is think of this like your group of friends, right? It's that group of friends and the people, like the cliques that you're close enough to be able to actually talk to them without getting beaten up, right? So it's just network management. How do you manage the people that you know? So who are you talking to? Do you have a way to actually reach those people that you want to talk to? Have you done anything for them? Because that can be a good way to get your foot in the door. Have they done anything for you? Because it can be a topic starter. Like this is a good question to ask yourself. How might tracking something like that be useful? Like if you could just put that in the chat real fast, that would be really, that'd be really cool to see what you're thinking here. Yeah, so how might tracking be useful to you for getting clients? Like how can you see yourself using that? Here, can I actually give you permission to unmute, or can you just unmute yourself? Because that would just be faster.
Hello?
Hey.
Hello?
Yep. Is it hard to hear? It must be very, very hard to hear. Let me.
No, it's fine. Oh, and can you hear? Can you hear
Yep.
this?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm good. Sorry about that.
I know we all hear kids. Right.
They don't want to shut up. 1 sec.
You just got to be louder than them. You just have to assert your dominance.
Hello, Andrew.
Hey.
So I unmuted Mike. I had the question that how might tracking something like that be useful to me to getting clients? I just
Yeah.
don't know. What do you mean tracking what?
Yeah, so tracking relationships, being able to track who's like what you've done for people, your testimonials, your results, who you're in contact with, all of that. Like you're basically tracking your social network.
Yeah. So if I track my relationship with someone that's big in the industry, that might help me, give me authority, that might build trust. If I work with someone big and I show that to potential clients, that will higher the chance of
Yeah,
getting
definitely.
accepted.
Yeah, having a good track record like that definitely would help.
Yeah. Sorry about the noise.
Well, if you can track it, you can see how you're doing on maintaining them. Exactly. Because otherwise it's very easy to forget.
Exactly.
It's very easy to lose track, and then you don't know who's where or what on your list. And it's can be harder than you would expect.
And if you keep track of who your clients are, you might realize some patterns and realize that your clients come from similar places. So you might just want to search there.
Exactly. Perfect. Because you're drawing it back now, you might be able to find a good source of clients if you notice that all the ones that you're getting are coming from like the same field or they have something in common. And then if you can sort of trace back where you might be able to find them or who would have found them first, it's perfect.
Yeah, that's one of the ways tracking can help. Seems like tracking is a good strategy to use.
Yeah, it's pretty important. That's why it earned one of the letters in clients. All right, so let's keep going with that. So if you're looking to get your foot in the door here, you've really got free paths. So we didn't necessarily cover the free paths, but we touched on them a teensy bit. So The three ways are: you can relationship your way in, you can skill your way in, or you can go ahead and you can just buy your way in. So those are the three main ways to get your foot in the door of clients. So no one approach is going to be better than the other. They're just different. They have different costs associated with them. So if I get out the little annotate, if I get out the marker and draw all over this, you do have the option. You could try to skill your way in. That is very possible, to just have the raw skill. The only problem with this one is that there's a lot of experts out there. Here, let's go back, because the drawing decided it didn't feel like working right. So we'll do it this way. The problem with the skill is that there's a lot of people out there who are extremely skilled, but they never find clients. So clients have the X through that, and it's mostly because they don't have the relationship component, which makes it a lot harder. So if we take it back to the anthill example yesterday, it's like you're basically looking around your house. If there's no ant infestation, you're looking around your house hoping you'll find one. And you might be really, really, really good at trying to find them, but if there's no one there, there's just no one there. So unfortunately, skilling your way in, as much as I would like that to be the end all be all, it still comes back to relationships help a ton there. Even the same for buying your way in. So typically when I talk about buying your way in, I'm just talking about getting in the masterminds, going to events, paying for access to people, paying for access to coaching. You're basically just paying for that relationship. You're paying to have the opportunity to build up higher quality relationships. So realistically, I just want to make this point. Both of these do end up coming back to the relationships here. So that's the big one. That's the big one. All ties back to who you know. Because there's a lot of people out there that suck, and they have tons of clients, and they burn lots of clients. But you know what? They keep getting paid, and that's because of the relationships. It's because they can say, like, oh, I'm an old dog. I've sold like all this stuff in the past. And that's a bit of a fallacy, because what you've done in the past doesn't necessarily correlate to the future in any way. But it's a metric that we like to use. It's trustworthy in the sense of, if you've ever been in the financial markets and you see how they have all the like upward graphs that are like, oh, here's where I told everyone to invest in Apple, and then it skyrocketed. And that's another fallacy. I would technically call it hindsight and Texas sharpshooter, which is really just you're assigning order to something that really didn't have any. Although some of these people, their proclamations, they may have been onto something. But in reality, a lot of the times you can't make that jump, that because I told people to invest here and then eventually it skyrocketed and I did that 3 times, that doesn't mean your 4th time is going to work as well. People often won't work with you if they don't like you. Yes, well, you are exactly right. There are people who will bend over backwards to attempt to still work with you if they like you. You know, that's why it's so hard to hire friends and family, and that's why it sucks to do that, because you don't want to let them go, and especially friends, it feels really bad. Especially if you have a friend as like a business partner, like I did, and it's like it just gets awkward, because if things aren't working and you actually like them, it's sort of like, well, I don't want this to fall apart. I don't want to leave, but things really aren't working. So then your options are, you either start carrying more weight and then you keep trying to do better and better, or eventually the whole thing falls apart and everyone's upset. So definitely, Raul, if people don't like each other, it just doesn't work. So it all comes back to relationships. So forming relationships, it's like being a stalker, but a lot less creepy about it. So we don't want to be like, caught watching her through the window at night. We don't want to be creepy. We just want to be more like, oh, we keep bumping into each other. Like your social media presence. If you're omnipresent and people just keep bumping into you, they keep seeing you everywhere, that's a pretty big distinguishing factor. A lot of times when people come to me and they talk to me, they're like, oh, hey, I found those old photos of you with either like it's like old influencer photos. They see me with like Dan Locke or Elliot Hull, so they see me with like Juji and all these Brendan Carter, these old photos that I don't even remember having around. And but people dig through people's they'll dig through your stuff. Now that's not a reliable strategy, but having like little things, like little having like the trail of Skittles, while you can't rely on it, it can still help as like the the 1% boost. So that can always be useful, but we want it to be more directed than that. So the idea of we keep bumping into each other, you know, you establish your relationships through similarities. That's what I did a whole lot when I was newer to it. So what I would do is if I could find pictures of you, and let's say that you were lifting weights, guess what I'm going to be talking about? We're going to be talking about lifting weights because we both like that. Or if I saw that you play video games, you have like a Steam ID or like something like that, I'm gonna bring up some video games. There's an old story that I'm going to completely butcher and not remember it correctly, so I will paraphrase it. I think there was it Taft? There was a president. Nobody could get a meeting with him. Nobody. And then there was this one guy who managed to get 5 minutes with him or something like that. It's one of those stories. He walks into the office and clearly he can already tell this news story that he's trying to get out of this guy, it's not going to go anywhere because he's preoccupied, he's busy, he's looking at his desk, he's worried about everything except this interview. And it's just like, hey, you've got 5 minutes. What do you want? And then somehow, some way, it'd be great if I remember the story the right way, but he notices some way that there's a large stamp collection there, right? And this insightful news reporter decides to ask, hey, what's up with the stamp collection? And then here, something crazy happens. This presidential figure goes ahead and says, oh, well, my boy collects stamps. He loves stamps, right? So that's what his mind is like focused on. He's preoccupied. He can't think of this interview because that's what the reporter wants. What the president wants, he wants something else. He cares about the stamps right now for his boy. So when this reporter starts talking about, instead of the interview, he talks more about, hey, I know these people that have like all these stamp collections, all the exotic stamps, and they pass through there, and I can like give you all these stamps. His eyes light up. He suddenly got something that he cares about, right? It's relevant. It's prevalent on his mind. That's what he's focused on. So because this reporter helped him get something that he wanted, he was interested in as well, in kind, that president, whoever he was, I'm pretty sure he was, returned the favor by giving this reporter tons of information, gave him this huge scoop, great things. So it really comes down to like what similarities, what like mutual benefits can you create? But because it's not usually the place where you actually start, because sometimes it can be hard to dig through people's like, I don't want to call it dirty laundry, but to dig through people's stuff and figure this out. Think of it more like the mutual benefit in that story, because this reporter didn't come in knowing that, oh, I'm going to be talking about stamps today. Sometimes you'll know. Sometimes you can prepare in advance, which is great. And if you can do it, do it. But sometimes you'll have to think of it on the fly. And then you're looking for a bit more of a mutual benefit, right? What can I offer them? What can they offer me? But more so, what can I offer them at this point? Especially if they're bigger than you, because you're trying to establish a relationship. What can I offer to them so they can, and without the ulterior motives, we're going to talk about that in a minute, but it's mutual benefit, but slant it to them. Try to give them the better benefit. Try to give them the better deal. All right. And we're going to talk about this more, but it's like, are you working towards a similar goal of some sort? Do you both want to revolutionize the supplements industry? Do you both want to change the way people lift weights? Do you both want to like completely overhaul the gaming industry? It can be anything. But if you're working towards a similar goal and you can both talk about the goal, you can definitely talk more like friends, more like partners. People that just like each other tend to do business with each other. That's why a lot of business tends to happen over drinks. So, can you help them? That's a basic question. Just think, can I help you? What skills do you have that would help someone? If they're struggling with email sequences, hey, I'm great at those. Let me help you. If they suck at traffic, hey, I'm great at that. Let me help you. If they can't lift weights, hey, I can teach you that. Let me show you. So, what benefits can you offer to them to actually help them? Right? Because not everyone's great at everything. Because I think Dan Pena used to actually have someone who would drive to like the ATM or to get his money for him. And the first time he saw an ATM, he was like, "What the hell is this?" Because he was so rich, he never had to use one. It's one of those like everyone's great at different things. Like some people that are extremely wealthy, ungodly good at like webinars and things like that, they might have trouble doing the laundry or basic handiwork. And then they have to pay someone else to do it to get that benefit from them. So everyone's got a shortcoming somewhere. You just have to see where you can fit yourself in and where you can help. Let's see, Ahmed. If you could spend 5 minutes thinking with your own thoughts on how you could offer some great benefits for a potential client, I'm confident you'll think of some golden benefits. Yes. It's taking that extra little bit of time to think what you can try to do for them first. So, what can you do for them before they do anything for you? And here's the caveat. Here's the but. Here's where I'm gonna cut that off real fast. Here's where standards come in, because clients, we have the standards at the very, 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 very end. And there's a reason for that. It's because you can't just do everything for free all the time like I do. That's something I need to work on, actually. Because, trust me, you'll burn out. I got it a little bit right now. It actually happens. And as much as you might want to do it, it's unsustainable. But you need some barriers in place. And when I'm talking about barriers, I'm talking about, how there's gatekeepers, how there's people that are like the buffer between like the influencer and all the other people. You have to have that little buffer there. You have to have those in place mostly to protect your time, well, actually, that's the biggest one. It's to be able to protect your time. And that's usually you're trying to overcome their barriers, but at the same time, you have to set up barriers for yourself as well. So it comes down to filtering out who your best people are at your current level. So as great as things like the Dream 100 are, which I will say they're really great, it can be overwhelming trying to think that far into the future. So what I mean is if you filter out people, your best people on your level, if you imagine people in terms of their skill, their positioning, where they're set up, some of them in the same zone where you are, not too far off, some of them are going to be better positioned. They're going to be better. They're going to be better off, better set, better ready to help you succeed, how you help them succeed. Some of them are going to be lower. They're going to be harder to work with. They're not going to have their shit in place. They're going to have more trouble getting started. If something fails and someone's down here, that's probably not your fault. That's probably just you tried your best and the ship was still sinking. There's only so many holes you can plug with duct tape. But within that level, that zone of people that you believe you could connect with and network with and maybe even get like a client out of, which ones are your best? So which ones are poised or set up for success? As far as you can tell, do they have all their shit together? Are they decent people? Do they have like standards, ethics, morals, all that? That's a big qualifier. So that comes down to setting your standards. So, I mean, honestly, Dan Kennedy, there's stories about him. He still made people fax him if they had questions. You had to use this old piece of shit. Yeah, that no one has anymore. Yeah, I had to get the one with the pictures on it because I don't know how to fax people. You dial, and apparently you hit start, and you place paper in the tray face down, and I think it scans the paper and like sends it to someone else's fax machine. And this thing takes forever, All right, it's not an email. It's not 24/7 access to the guy. This is literally, by the time he gets your fax, you've probably figured the problem out, which is one of the many reasons he used to do that. So you're playing by his rules or you're not playing at all. And a lot of that's going to come down to just non-neediness. So, and here's another thing. If you can kill the inner nice guy, I would highly recommend that as well, because he's going to make things really hard for you. Right? I'm not saying you be an asshole to your clients or potential clients. Don't be like a piece of shit, because that's not going to work either. They're not going to like that. But the difference between being a nice guy and a kind person is actually fairly simple. So the nice guy is the one who's going to get walked on. He's the one that's got the ulterior motives. So that's where it becomes like you do everything, but you're expecting something in return. So you get pissed if you don't get that something. So it's like, imagine writing out an entire sales funnel for a client to prove that you can, with the ulterior motive of they better pay me $10,000 for this shit. And then when they don't, you get pissed. You get mad. That's when you know that the motives weren't quite right. There also weren't standards in place. And Ryle, you are right. It is a tough balance. It is a really tough balance, especially if you're predisposed to be nicer. And then the difference is the kind person is the one that still demands respect at some level. They're doing something mutually beneficial or beneficial out of the kindness of their heart, but they're not necessarily expecting to get anything in return. That comes back to outcome independence, not being too needy with it. Because if your client can sense that, hey, you're desperate, you need this now, and like, you better give it to me, and I'm going to do all this stuff for you, that's usually they'll pick up on it, and it's normally not a great place to be. Especially since if they're not a great client, it turns out, then you'll have a lot of trouble letting them go, and it'll be miserable. Like, trust me, it'll be miserable for both of you, but mostly you, because the client's just going to be miserable no matter what. The difference really comes down to motives and standards. But man, I'm sorry, I have to go. Batteries on 1%. No, don't worry, man, you're good. I'll see you, Ahmed. It was great having you, man. Yeah, I noticed that. No one keeps their batteries charged these days. So here's the thing. We've got a lot to discuss now. So I'm just going to kill the slides for right now. We're going to stop the share. We're going to talk this out if you want to. We could go to story time. That is up to you.
Hey,
Kill the slides.
I'm actually the only one at the office today, so I can stay while I do my work. So I'm
I
kind
like
of
it.
doing two things here. But yeah. So thank you so much for putting these on. Appreciate it. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm out in San Diego. What area are you hailing from, Andrew?
I'm a little bit jealous. I'm stuck in New Jersey.
Oh man, you were in Corona capital there for a while. Well,
Yeah, we know it's about to happen again. I can tell. Everything's opening up and no one's wearing masks.
Yeah, we're about the same here, and San Diego is doing pretty good, but California as a whole, we're not doing too well. Los Angeles especially, and I think we're getting a lot of people coming down from there. Yeah. All right. So yeah, when it talks about like the nice guy thing and everything like that, I think people like it's okay if I mention names and such in a good way.
Yeah,
Yeah, positive
positive.
role models are like Stephen Georgia. He seems like he's a cool guy, but he knows his worth. He talks about how to over deliver, but not give away the whole meal, and not So basically, you're giving something good to the client. Write a couple extra leads, write or some headlines and some extra headlines and such. So you're giving, but you're not giving beyond your capacity to give, and still be okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I like him. He's like, he always gives a little bit more on the back end. Like, once you trust him, it's just like, oh, here's all this other stuff. here, I'll make sure that this works as best as it can. So it is
Yeah.
that idea of like the over deliver or having the intent to.
And attitude-wise, also, of course, legendary Brian Kurtz and such. Yes, he seems
Yeah,
like
I
a
love
really
Brian Kurtz.
cool guy, gentlemanly, and but he, has a good, solid business running and such.
Yeah, definitely a solid dude. He's always like he does actually over deliver all the time. His book was called Over Deliver.
Yeah, I still got to go through all the bonuses on that.
Yeah, the bonuses were insane on that. I was like, wait a minute, how many years is it going to take me to go through this?
Yeah, I just think that we have so much. I get total information overload and such. There's just so much it's available, and compared to what people had 15 years ago, it's just amazing. And yeah,
Yeah, it's almost for better or worse because now we almost have too much stuff.
I think we
Almost
do.
too much to go through.
Yeah.
Because back then it was like even if it was crap, you had one thing to go through.
And I think you just kind of figured it out from that point, even if that was the case, So, and that's one of the actual problems that I have because I have a ton of resources, even the free groups. I mean, there's a ton of resources in there, and sometimes that gives me it makes me freeze. Information overload makes me freeze, or makes me I need to learn this, I need to learn that, I need to jump here, I need to jump there, and then I don't do the important things because the important things are the harder things.
Yeah, I realize that. It's a lot of like it's I don't even want to call it information overload anymore because there's just so much of it. It's like information conditioning where it's not even comfortable to try to do anything on your own anymore because you're like, but wait, this guy's he can teach me how to do it or better, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I think the point is to, at least for me, as far as what I need to do, and is I need to cut out kind of all the other things and just do what goes towards the result. The result that I'm seeking to get. Of course, as we are on this call, it's the things that lead to generating copy clients. You know, so and for me that would mean like you say, giving something at the front end, but not too much. Some emails and such like the Justin Golf type of suggestions and such. Besides the FedEx, I might not do the FedEx, but I do some some emails. Yeah.
I know. I keep thinking about lumpy mail, and I'm just like, that's actually really powerful, but I'm not sure when I'll use that.
Yeah. I wasn't. We talked about high level courses too. When I was trying to do the agency thing, I was in John Bogar's course. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Yeah,
No,
he's,
I'm not.
he's pretty big when it comes to the consulting in general space. And what he does, he had for physical therapists. His agency started one for physical therapists. He would give these guys a big giant, almost like an ammunition can that had all kinds of stuff inside of it, and so yeah, those are things that definitely get attention. Yeah, he charged a good amount for their services, so therefore he was able to put out you know lead magnets, like, I don't know if you would call it a lead magnet, but a little offering at the start like that.
Yeah.
Another cool one is these guys would send their prospects boxes with all kinds of candy in it, but they didn't send them the key. And to get the key, they would have to get a hold of them.
Oh man.
That's a pretty good one, I think. Yeah. So,
Oh, that's hilarious. I thought I had heard about that once, and I thought someone did it with like money or something.
yeah, that's a good
People will
one.
try like anything for that, but that's amazing.
Yeah. Gosh. Well, I don't want to kind of divert you from what you are going to speak on next. So I'm all ears if you wherever you would like to guide this topic to.
Yeah, it was mostly just going to come down to like maybe a few stories if need be, if the concepts didn't quite make sense, because I know that stories can help clear things up sometimes. Or I could just talk about, any sort of other stuff, because you can just treat this like a one-on-one at this point for the next 14 minutes. No, 24 minutes? Yeah.
Yeah, well, if it'll be helpful, if it'll be helpful to anybody else and such, that'd be awesome too. And right now, personally, where I'm at is I've had clients in similar spaces such as web development and Facebook ads. I used to work for a Facebook ads agency back in 2016, 2017. Um, so yeah, that was before I knew about copy. I just knew like you had to put out an ad, you had to put out something. Or what's everybody else doing.
Yep.
Yeah, then I didn't
Uh,
understand the concept of calling it copywriting and such. I knew it had to be an appealing type of ad. It had to have sort of a appealing offer and such. So yeah. So, but right now, as far as copy goes, I I would like to do email. Uh, and I've had some experience in the space, and you saw the samples that I've asked you to see if you had some feedback and such on it and such. And the last one, the food one, I did implement a lot of your suggestions there, and it did receive some positive feedback after that, by the way. So thank you. That was kind of a practice one. Yeah. Yeah.
every
Next
little
time
win,
when
man.
I'm sorry.
Every
Every little
little win
win.
is
Yeah,
important.
definitely. And I have my one little testimonial too. Um, so that's where I'm at, and I would definitely like to utilize any assets, but I think every client interaction is probably unique. So some
Hmm.
people will value, okay, you've written, that's a nice email, and okay, you have a nice testimonial. Some people won't value that as much. Um, so yeah, what do you think about the space like for email? Is it still a kind of a blue ocean, or you think it's red ocean? You think what are your thoughts in terms of that?
It's one of those where I think it depends on the industry, because direct mail, sorry, not direct mail, email still definitely works for sure. It's still one of the most effective ways to actually get sales, because by the time you have your list, you've usually hopefully you've curated it up front so the people that are still in it are actually good, and you remove the spam list, the spam numbers, whatever. So over time, that thing, you're just whittling it down. It's like, imagine, why am I thinking of this? Imagine the Japanese, how they take like the animal crap and they would polish it and just make this perfectly shiny round ball out of it.
I never heard of that. Really?
Yeah, so you can take animal dung and you can polish that to a shine, and it's actually kind of scary.
Wow.
That's
Huh.
sort of what the email list can be. It starts off like a pile of shit, but then you can work it, and then suddenly you have this really valuable thing. It's like the SRDS and the old list brokers. They would sort of do that job for you back then, but well, I shouldn't say back then. I'm not that old, but
Yeah. Yeah. I don't. I think they. Yeah. I don't know much about the direct mail. But all I know about is from listening to Brian Kurtz. That's all.
he's a good
So I
person
know
to
that.
hear from, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in terms of clientele, though, do you think there's a lot of people, hitting up most of the people who do direct response already? Because I think most people want to be email copywriters from what I see now, especially when you're new.
Yeah.
Um, seems like one of the popular things to go after first because it's short form and such.
Yeah.
But
It's definitely easier, especially than writing a whole VSL, and then if you don't know which part's working and which part isn't, or you don't have access to where people drop off, it's very difficult versus an email where you can see, oh, hey, here's the open rate, how many people clicked. And I'm not going to say that it's an amazing that the metrics are accurate, because they're really not. You can like plus minus it by like 30%, which to me is insane, but it's good enough. But I would
yeah,
definitely say there's never going to be enough good email copywriters, because there's always going to be another business that needs more emails, or they might not know they need emails, but they're going to need them.
yeah, got you. So it's still something like worthy to pursue and such. And
Yeah, I would definitely say yes, because a good email with a good return on investment, The AWAI standard pricing is 200 to 1,000 plus per email. And you could get higher than that, I'm sure, if you're dealing with the right direct response companies and they know that you're getting good results. Because if you make them 5K, like not even like 20K per email, paying you 5 is like, here, take it.
Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good. Oh, hey, there's someone has come on.
I know, I do like the background. Hey, Anuka. We're treating this a little bit more like a Q&A coaching time. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat.
You know what type of tree this is?
A plastic tree?
He's a facus.
Looks good. Looks good, actually.
Thank you.
Does look good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very like clear and professional. I like it.
Yeah, we're up and around. Oops, pardon me. I have to glance for a company call. I'll be back.
So, what have you been discussing so far?
Could you say that again?
So what have you been discussing so far? What has the discussion been so far?
Yeah, so today I started off with basically talking about relationships and how important it is. So the actual official lesson would be tracking, and it would be, why am I forgetting this now? Tracking was really the important one, and setting boundaries, basically.
Okay.
So standards. So if you track, you're going to want to track a bunch of different things, but the most important one is your relationships with other people. So when you think of tracking relationships, think of where do I stand with this specific person that I want to write for, do something for, be of service to. So you can actually quantify how close you are or aren't to having them as a client. So for example, if you're trying to get, let's say, Mark Zuckerberg as your client, and every single day you're dropping Facebook posts somewhere where you think he would see them, I would track those posts. And then if you ever do reach out, you can gauge how well that has or hasn't worked. Because if you attempt to reach out, you get blocked, or you attempt to reach out and he's like, who the hell are you? Clearly he has no idea where you are. I wouldn't try doing that again next time. But it also comes down to just being able to track your relationships, as in, does someone, I don't like using this word, but does someone owe you a favor? If you think of it that way, that's almost a little too aggressive, because in reality, you should just be looking to give, but still have enough standards and boundaries to keep you from giving too much.
Okay.
So it's having that intent that you're actually trying to help whoever your client might be or will be, without expecting anything in return. So it's not like you do all the work up front and like expect to get paid for it still. That's where the standards come in. You can do a little something nicer. You can maybe give them a sample or a proposal, do a little bit more for them. And then once they pay you, then you can go above and beyond all you want. You can establish that better relationship. But until, money passes hands, there needs to be some sort of standard that you set up for yourself.
That makes sense.
So, those were like the big points. But if you had any like specific questions, you've got, we're just going to take some questions for 15 minutes.
Let's see.
I'm going to be listening now, you guys. Pardon me. I have to do a few work things they have me here doing. So I'm still on, but I'm more in here right now.
We can't think of anything.
Maybe
I could tell you some client horror stories.
Yeah, that works.
I'm like trying to think what might be useful so you guys know what to look for. Basically, if you're looking to do anything in any sort of service or copywriting, you're always going to want to screen your client just as much as they're screening you, because they need you oftentimes, especially when you're starting out. They need you more than you need them. Because if I'm going to Agora Financial They don't give a shit if I get their job or not because they don't need me. They've got like leagues and legions of copywriters that can do an amazing job. But if you're talking to the little startup, the newer business, the mom and pop shop, they're the ones who need you because of the fact that in most cases, if they're looking for copywriters or they're looking for a service, it's because they're hurting. It's because they've already got a big pain point, like they're not getting clients or they might go out of business. So at that point, that's when the ball is realistically it's in your court. But I know a lot of times it feels like it isn't because they're the ones who are giving the money. But in reality, you're the one who's giving them even more money through the service that they absolutely need. So that's the first part is you should definitely screen your clients that way. But the other part of screening your clients that's even more important is how well established are they to succeed? Because without naming names, one of my clients semi-recently was in the health and wellness space, so to speak. But there was an offer that I was expected to write for, and the core offer, I thought it sucked. I didn't think there was anything unique enough about it. I didn't think it fit with the advertising platform we were going to be going on. There's a lot of parts that didn't make sense to me, but because I do sort of an agency model with some clients, I took that on anyway because they took it on, and it was a nightmare because this person was very difficult to work with, kept making changes to all the ads, and half the time, like, you'll notice that on certain platforms, it'll attract certain kinds of people that have different intents for what they're looking for. Like, for example, like YouTube ads, people tend to be looking more for education. They tend to be looking more for like a how-to kind of video or just plain entertainment, in which case you probably don't want to be advertising to them because there's some, like if I'm watching a Let's Play and I get an ad, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, why are you wasting your money on me? I just want to watch my Let's Play.
Yeah.
But it's like in other cases, if you're searching for like, I don't know how to clean a rifle, and then you would know your target audience might be more like Republican, survivalist, conservative. You have an instant idea of who you're targeting. Or if it's weight loss, how to lose 50 pounds through keto. If you present them with a good keto offer, it's probably something they're going to want more likely than not. Also segregating by age ranges, because like certain platforms like Instagram, they'll tend to attract younger people. Facebook tends to be older people. Banner ads tend to be really old people. YouTube, you actually get a pretty decent mix as far as I can tell. They tend to be a little older though. But just being able to narrow down where your client actually is and where your zone of genius is. So if you're really good at Facebook ads, but the client's demographic is just not on Facebook, I wouldn't even touch them because you're both going to leave that deal upset. So it's about screening the clients, and it's also about screening their offer. Like, do you think that this is an offer that's unique enough that you could, I'm going to go back to copywriting because it's easier for me to make an example.
Yeah.
Do you think it's an offer that you can actually make exciting, that the marketplace would want? Does it address a need that already exists in the marketplace, or like a latent one that you can pick out and actually show them that they've always wanted but they didn't know about yet? Because if you can do that, you've got a much better chance of success. A lot of A-list copywriters, their real secrets are usually, it's like networking upwards. So it's like taking the best client you can get at your current level, picking the one that has the best offer and is the most poised for like the biggest laydown for success, and then helping them succeed, then taking that success and doing it again in the next tier up, success, and working it up that way. So that can be a whole lot easier because if you get the laydowns, that's so much better. If I can sell a Ferrari for $2,000 through Facebook Marketplace and I can do that all day long and keep all the money and I'm not losing money, sure, I'll do that. But if you want me to sell like, a $10,000 cup holder, that's a really, really hard sell. I'd have to put all sorts of branding on it, do all sorts of crazy stuff with it.
Yeah.
And then it's also making sure that your client doesn't obsess over the wrong parts too. Because going on that same example, if I told you, hey, I've got a $10,000 cup holder, most people are going to look at me funny. But if I tell you, hey, I've got a $10,000 Ferrari that comes with a cup holder, there you go. You start with the Ferrari, not the cup holder. Because in the cup holder that comes with the free Ferrari, no one's going to get that far. They're not going to read that far.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that's definitely one of them. I haven't actually had too many client disaster stories. Just make sure that they're willing to test your stuff, especially in copywriting or ads. Make sure that they have an ad budget and that they're willing to test your stuff and actually roll it out. Because some of the clients that I've had, they take a very long time to actually test anything or roll anything out. And that might be because of their own business infrastructure. Could just be because they don't feel like doing it or they forget. But sometimes that will be an issue, and then that'll hold up your results as well. So just try to get on board with the client, see what they're doing, see if you can be more like a partner than just the copywriter, because then that'll also get you more jobs in the future too. So then you can tell them like, hey, I can, do your emails, I can do your funnels, I can do your ads too, and you can build up the whole package and help them.
So does that mean if you does that mean you don't offer your services to people who won't run ads or who don't have a budget for ads?
Honestly, I wouldn't, only because of the fact that A, they probably can't pay you, and B, they're never going to get tested. So there's no way to leverage like your success. So if they don't have the money to pay you, then that's a problem up front. But if they don't have the money to run the ads, you'll do your work, but it'll be a purely one-off job because your ads won't run. You won't be able to get any sort of data or testimonials from it to build yourself up. And then the other problem is that they just never run it. You're an expense. You're not making them money because your stuff's not running. And then the way they see it is, why am I paying this dude? Let's get rid of him. And that's no good for anyone.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Abe. You're doing a sort of like just a Q&A kind of coaching thing right now. You can ask whatever you want for the next 7 minutes. I feel like I should just do Q&As. They're more fun. Yeah, and you can feel free to unmute yourself too if you want. I will hit the ask to unmute just in case it's being weird.
Yeah, I just had a company call. That's why I have to keep muting myself. So excuse me.
Nah, I understand.
And
I used to be a programmer, remember?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, no, I'm definitely not working on that other the other company stuff right now.
Yeah, when I tried to go into programming, I just did not have the focus at the time when I tried going into it, so didn't catch on to it too well at that time.
Man, that's fair. Because I will be the first to admit I hate it. It updates, it moves at a blistering pace. Every single time you think you have a grasp on something, it's like, no, we're overhauling it. We're changing the language, or we're deprecating this other thing. It doesn't work anymore. It's like, thanks. And just keeping up with the integrations and the standards. And I was like, I just didn't have the mind for it. Because it's like, hey, there's all this stuff that doesn't connect right. What do I do? And there's never proper documentation because it's like this company and this company, it's like, hey, it's your problem. No, it's your problem. And then you get stuck in the middle on a Stack Overload.
Yeah. Oh man.
Or Stack Overflow. That's funny.
I didn't even get past like JavaScript. JavaScript was that's where I kind of stopped. So I didn't make it too well. I tried to even do full stack and too much for kind of, because I don't think I had the attention span to really. And this was a few years back, had too much going on in my life at that time. It was like, to focus on something and solve that type of problem wasn't there.
Yeah, but don't feel bad because JavaScript's screwy, man. The way some of their numbers work and the way some of these like weird little glitches and exceptions, I don't remember them now, but I remember JavaScript's like the weird language. It's the one where if something's wrong, you don't know if it's you, your code, or the language itself, and if they're gonna have to fix that in a future update.
Oh boy.
It was one of those. Because I thought, God, what was it? I don't remember now. There was like certain numbers that would or certain things that would register as not a number. I think it might have been like if you accidentally somehow divide by 0 or overflow the amount of numbers that it can have, which is like 2 billion. No, it was more than a billion, I think. It was a lot. But there's all these weird little details and quirks that made it so that you would get these unexpected results when something went wrong. You just wouldn't know how to fix it.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's one thing you would expect the language itself to work right. If that doesn't work right, then that doesn't help.
Yeah, when you're always doubting that. Oh man.
So maybe maybe a good thing right here would be because so it's a challenge. I mean, of course, to go out and get clients, it's like, what is the next step for everybody? What is the next recommended step? What's the best path or the preferred path? For everybody here to. So what are you going to do now to execute? And what if you have any type of reservations or barriers or something to in your execution or in your planned execution, what would those be so we can help each other get past that point?
Yeah, there's definitely, I can see like a ton of barriers for everyone's barriers being a little bit different. I'm actually thinking. I think the toughest thing for most people just starting off is going to be just doing something, period. Because honestly, that's what I have the most trouble with. Because even now and even back then, the hardest thing is always just, hey, when did I last talk to that guy? Hey, who do I need to reach out to? Or, hey, this guy hates me when really he doesn't, but you think he does. Or they're just busy and you don't realize that they're just busy. So they've ignored your last 7 emails by accident. And it's not your fault. You may have even had a good subject line, but they're just so busy. They're just like, delete.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you. And that's always tough because it's like, and when it comes to anything in sales, it's the rejection portion or the perceived rejection or things. It's tough. It's tough stuff, especially for certain people. I don't have a super thick skin. So,
yeah, I'm right there with you, man. It hurts.
Yeah, I've been challenged personally. So this, if I to post in groups, and my reservation on that was, okay, I've done some copy, I've had some copy clients, but I felt inauthentic by posting stuff that I mostly just read about rather than implemented myself. So coming across as an expert. When they say, okay, well, I read about it, it's almost like I played a doctor on TV, type of deal, you know. So, yeah. But then the feedback I got for that was that, hey, you got stuff happening in real life, so kind of, you have stories that you could share that can relate to copy. And I thought that sounds pretty good. So I was thinking of doing something like called Copy in Real Life, episode 1 or something like that, Just thinking like, okay, this morning, my wife and I, we got a letter from the HOA where we're renting, because they didn't like the flag we had, they didn't like the lights we put up, and it's like, you put a nail inside of our beams. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of them either, but I don't like trouble either. So I was trying to convince my wife, let's just take it down, And the message didn't get across until I threw rocks at her enemies with her, because they were my enemies, but I didn't voice it out, I said, I had to say, I'm not crazy about them either, they're just kind of people who like to control mongers, and then, but you know what? I don't really want to have a lot of trouble. So let's just take it down, and we'll work on getting our next place without an HOA,
Yep.
And so when I threw rocks at our enemies, he was more willing to say, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So that's something I could possibly use as an example for copy in real life, and take it from what was the name? Blair Warren?
That might have been.
Yeah, people will...
Throw rocks at your enemies. I know Russell Brunson did that, but he referenced it from someone else, and I think it was one sentence persuasion or something.
Yeah, 1%. That's Blair Warren. Blair Warren.
Blair Warren, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So taking all these little principles, I was thinking of doing it with Ben Savenga's bullets as well, because I really value his stuff. And he's actually, I think he's one of the copy writers that his stuff resonates towards what I consider to be the current atmosphere of copywriting, because everybody's so focused on being, not being spammy, and because it all comes back on the net now, reviews, feedback. You can't make big promises that you cannot back up. You know, because it all comes back and bites you. And if your product doesn't do what it says it's going to do, that'll bite you too. So and I think that atmosphere is really prevalent now, and it's one of the things that I just really disliked when I went into copywriting. Excuse me, because I bought a lot of products that didn't do, for me at least. What they said they were going to do for me. And I bought into the hype.
I've been there. I've been there. Spent that before.
So,
Yeah, it's always rough.
Yeah, I went off on a tangent, but basically, so my challenge is to post into groups and post in a way that feels authentic to me, and that will be so I can get kind of get people like you say position yourself in front of them and such. That will be my way of positioning in front of them. So I know I took a lot of time, so thank you. And whoever would like to go next with that. Awesome.
Yeah, if there's any more questions, I mean, we're already a little bit over, but I don't mind too much. Because I think in the Zoom I had this scheduled a little bit longer. But either way, if there's any like outstanding questions still, definitely like now's the time to ask them.
So I was going to ask how important it is to have a website in the client getting process.
I'm going to rank that kind of low, honestly. The website can be good for a positioning sort of thing. Like you can replace a business card once you're a little bit higher up there. And you can just say, hey, check out my website. Or you might have like the SEO and people might find your website and find you through that website. But I would say probably focus on skills and getting more testimonials first if you're newer. Because that website, if there's nothing to put on the website, there's no point. It's like a fly trap with no glue. It's sort of like, it's not going to do anything.
I think what takes the place of that is really having a presence more than a website, just so that people can see you're a real person, that you're not going to take off with their, do anything sketchy. So they want to know that you're a person that has, that it's not what they call fly by night. Yeah. So as long as you have a presence where they can verify you're a real person that's going to do a real job and not do anything bad to them, you make them feel more comfortable, so they be more likely willing to work with you. I don't know if that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I would pretty much focus more on skills and just developing like a portfolio. Just you're a real person. If they know, like, and trust you, that's going to be a whole lot more valuable than having a website. Because even honestly, I think like a lot of the A-listers, it's probably word of mouth, honestly, from what I hear. It's not even like, hey, I went on David Deutsch's website. I didn't know who he was 5 minutes ago, but I'm going to hire him now. Versus I've known that, like, I've heard from like Agora, I've heard from these other amazing companies that, hey, this guy's really great. I just want him. Let's get him. Okay. So I would say don't get too distracted with the website. If you can do it easily and you're tech savvy, then go for it, because I've got one and it'd be hypocritical to say no, but it's not my focus. So it's more like I would say like the 5%, not even the 10%.
Yeah, don't make my mistake of getting ready to get ready by doing all kinds of things that don't get you the direct result. And the website doesn't get you the direct result. It's actually more of could either be a side thing or the long way around.
Yep, can definitely be a nice, like a juicy time sink right there. It's a good way to try to avoid just talking to people, but the longer you try to avoid that, usually it just makes things harder.
True. Okay, thank you.
All right, awesome. So that is all the questions, and I think we are good to cut this for day 5.
Wonderful. All right. So what is it? What are the? Is this group going to be archived now, or?
I'm actually gonna have to think about that. I could just keep it open if that would be beneficial. I know be doing some stuff in the future too. Might be helpful to actually bring that up in the group too, because I know most of these groups, the whole idea is okay, you run the whole challenge and then there's something at the end, but I don't have anything planned at the end, so I'll probably just keep the group open for everyone and we'll see what we do from there.
Okay. Okay. Great. All right. Well, thank
Yeah.
you.
I think we should keep it open. I think we should.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think I'm just going to keep, at the very least, the group will stay open.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, where I'm sorry, I don't want to mangle your name. On Woka? Wuka?
Yeah, that's it. Okay.
On Wuka. Thank you. Where are you
Yeah.
hailing from?
Say it again.
Where are you from?
Nigeria.
Nigeria. Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, well,
Yeah.
I wish you a good weekend. We're going to celebrate the Independence Day over here in the United States. So just kind of seeing where we're from. We're going to wish those who are celebrating Independence Day, happy Independence Day, and everybody else from, have a wonderful weekend.
Hey, thank you. You too.
Thank you.
All right, good stuff. And I'll see you, Abe. I know you weren't able to get on The Voice, but we didn't forget you. You know you're still here. All right, great stuff, everyone. I'll see you in the group. All right.